Hi everyone. Welcome to our summer mini conf, which actually it's not actually very mini. It's got quite a good jam-packed schedule for you today. So if you don't know me, I'm Mitch Coles, and I'm the development worker for Pathfinders, and I'll be hosting today. We'll be doing sessions on skills in lockdown, talking tech and gaming, disability dating panel, and a live Q&A. Some of the guest speakers include Fee Anderson, Vivek Gohil, the guys from the Neuromuscular Centre, and we'll also be joined by Andy Rose, who's a neuromuscular advisor from Cambridge as well. So I'll hand straight over to our CEO, John, who will quickly tell you a bit about what we do at Pathfinders, and then we'll start cracking on with the sessions. So yeah, take it away, John.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. For those of you who don't know me, I'm John May Hasty. I'm the CEO of DMD Pathfinders, and I just wanted to just tell you a little bit about what Pathfinders does. I think we've got a great schedule of talks today, so I think Mitch has done a really good job of pulling this all together. In terms of Pathfinders, we're a user-led organization, which means people with Duchenne and some of the conditions have us decide how we run, what we do, and basically we exist to support people with Duchenne muscular dystrophy and similar conditions, and just provide peer support, information, and advice. So we're here for anyone if you have any queries about living with Duchenne, anything to do with actually the management Duchenne or the everything else that we have to deal with in terms of managing PAs and carers, managing housing, transport, accessibility, all that kind of things. We're here to provide some support, and as part of that, we run information and social events. This is one example. So yeah, really, if you're interested in finding out more, we would love to have you involved. We're always looking for more volunteers for what we do. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about Pathfinders, really. So I'll hand back over to Mitch, who can kick us off.
Cool, thanks for that. So yeah, we'll just get cracking, basically. So the first session of the day is going to be our skills in lockdown session. So this is all about what people have been up to during the lockdown, what skills they've learned, how they've kept busy, and also, yeah, taken that into the future, the things we've all learned from lockdown. So yeah, when he's ready, Sanjeev Man is going to tell us about the campaign and freelance work he's done over the period. So yeah, go for it, Sanj.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanjeev. A little bit of background on me. A 23-year-old with Duchenne muscular dystrophy from Glasgow, Scotland. So yeah, I'm a freelance journalist. So I'm at uni at the moment doing media comms at Strathclyde. So busy doing my dissertation, which is it's actually a documentary on the representation of disabled people. So as you can imagine, it's quite interesting and also quite relevant as well with the whole coronavirus and the term vulnerable, of course, being used quite a lot. So yeah, it's quite relevant to that. But yeah, during lockdown, just kind of kept busy. I was slim shielding, much like probably the majority of you. So it's obviously been difficult being kind of away from family and friends and stuff, but tried my best to keep busy anyway. So yeah, so kind of one of the things I started doing in lockdown was I was always kind of keen on making music, but I'm unable to like use instruments, stuff like that. So I actually found the software where I can make beats on my computer. It's called Soundtrap. So I've been doing that, and I released a wee mixtape actually on SoundCloud. So a lot of my friends have been listening to that, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a really good way of kind of starting a new skill in lockdown and kind of developing something new that I hadn't really done before. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and kind of still working on that. Hopefully, kind of release a few more things as well. So it's good to take that from lockdown. Other than that, I've been volunteering. I've been doing a lot of campaigning work about the NICE guidelines. I released a few articles and essays for the Scotsman and BBC, just talking about the NICE guidelines and the frailty scale. So I feel that's quite a big issue right now. Obviously, people not getting access to life-saving equipment and ventilation. So that's obviously quite close to me. But yeah, I've done a few articles just to kind of raise awareness to make sure we're not getting forgotten about. So that was quite an important kind of thing that I've been doing in the lockdown. And of course, volunteering with like Pathfinders, doing wee bits and bobs here and there. Also, obviously, been doing my uni documentary and trying to just go on walks as well. I've never really done that in the past, going on walks, but I've kind of managed to do that a bit more so during lockdown. I was also going to talk a wee bit about doing freelance work in lockdown. It's kind of been a big way out for me, being able to work just from home. Obviously, I couldn't go anywhere, but obviously because I'm doing journalism, I managed to do a lot of interviews and stuff from home. So just like phone calls and things like that. So that's been a really way out to keep me busy as well. So I'm not just sitting out kind of wasting away. Just trying to keep my brain kind of occupied during the long days. So yeah, I've been kind of pitching ideas to newspapers throughout lockdown, just with ideas and different articles that I wanted to write, and writing a few things here and there. But I definitely think that kind of helped my confidence and helped like keep me interacted with kind of the outside world instead of just kind of being on my own. And also a lot of Zoom calls here and there for the interviews, which just kept me quite busy. So I'm kind of glad I've had all these things to do. Otherwise, I kind of would have been a bit obviously bored and kind of depressed, but I'm kind of glad that I've had all these things to do to keep me busy. Yeah, that's about it.
Great, thank you.
And Sanjeev, I wanted to ask,
Yeah.
how did you kind of first start getting into the freelance work, and was it relatively like easy to do, or did you have to was there like one big thing that suddenly made a lot of work come to you?
Yeah. Well, it always started kind of at the beginning when I was doing my undergrad in journalism. So it was kind of part of the fourth year project was to do 2 weeks work experience.
Ooh.
So it just kind of started off from there, doing work experiences, done wee bits at STV and the Daily Record, Scottish based obviously, and kind of just went from there. But the biggest obstacle was just getting paid, because only recently, say the last year, I've gotten paid for the articles that I've been writing. I think it's just that line between you don't want to say that you want paid, because then they might be like, oh, forget it then. We don't want your work. So it's kind of that fine line. But I was only about a year ago where I got the BBC social kind of job. So that was freelancing, making videos and things like that. So that was kind of the real break. And since then, kind of other people have contacted me to kind of do work because they've seen my previous work. So kind of just built up from there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really good. Does anyone else have any questions for Sanjeev? We can take them through the Q&A, or you can leave a message in the chat. So how are you finding managing your time, Sanjeev, when you're now that you're in lockdown and kind of keeping yourself structured and that kind of thing so that you can do the work?
Yeah, I made sure to keep structure because I know like it's kind of easy to fall into that trap where if you're not structured, you can just be kind of just sitting about and doing nothing really. So kind of 3 days a week, I do my uni work, like 10 to 5 sort of thing, almost like a job. And then the 2 other days I kind of do my volunteering and bits for the BBC here and there. So I still kind of got that full Monday to Friday sort of schedule. So that's kind of busy during the day. Then at night, just kind of relaxing. Yeah, and trying to go on drives maybe. On the weekend, on a Saturday, go a wee drive. Yeah, so that's kind of the structure.
Cool. We got a question for Vivek, who asks, what technology do you use? So I guess, when you're making your either your blogs or your videos, what kind of technology do you use to help you?
Well, I used to use my phone. Like everything that I've recorded, even my documentaries, will be on my phone. I do want to invest in a camera though. Maybe if I get kind of a full-time job further along the line. And I've been editing with Premiere Pro. What other technology? Yeah, just Zoom as well. I've been doing a lot of interviews through that.
Do you use anything to make it easier for you to use your phone?
Yeah, I've got like a tripod that I connect to my chair, so it's kind of so I don't need to hold my phone, and then I just plug my mouse in, so it's not really anything like kind of made for it. I just plug my mouse in into the bottom of my phone and then just do that, so I kind of don't need to hold it. But
great. Oh, thank you. Just one last question for you from Sam, one of the attendees. What degree are you doing?
Well, at the moment, I'm doing a master's in media and communication at Strathclyde part-time. But that finishes in August, so just kind of doing the final touches to my documentary now.
That's really great. Thank you, Sanj.
No problem.
Great stuff. You sound like one of the busiest people I know. There's loads of stuff going on for you. That's cool. Okay. So yeah, thanks for Sanj. The next speaker, we've got a pre-recorded piece from Fee Anderson. She's done a lot of campaigning over the last bunch of years, and during lockdown there's been some issues with supplies around sort of respiratory equipment. So yeah, John's gonna load that video up for us.
So. Great. So bear with me.
Hi everyone, my name's Faye. I live in Greater Manchester with my 2 little girls and my husband. And I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when I was 3 years old. I've been campaigning now, mainly with Muscular Dystrophy UK, for about 10 years now actually. You've probably seen me campaigning for things like changing places, accessible homes, and things to do with public transport. Today I'm here to talk to you about what I've been doing during lockdown while we've all been at home, mostly shielding with MD. So I got involved in a campaign that I never imagined I would be, and I would hope never would have had to be, and that is to do with ventilator parts and cough assist parts, tubing, filters, basically supplies that many people with muscular dystrophy who use BiPAP or any kind of ventilator need in non-invasive ventilation, or if they have a tracheostomy, any kind of ventilation, basically we all usually get supplies for via the NHS. So when I couldn't get through to my usual clinic on my usual number, I started calling the main hospital to see what was going on and what patients like me are meant to do in the meantime. I was told by somebody higher up that apparently the hospital I go to has never supplied their patients at home with supplies for their equipment. That usually it's the community nurses. Now, obviously, I've been under this clinic since I was 18 years old, so I know who supplies it. It's definitely not the community nurses, at least in my area. I can't speak for other people's areas, of course, but whenever I've encountered district nurses, community nurses, and such, they haven't got a clue about non-invasive ventilation. They haven't got a clue about a cough assisters or anything like that. So getting supplies through them seems very bizarre. So I rang the community nurses to see maybe it transferred over to them during the pandemic, and that the person I spoke to perhaps got their wires crossed. And I was informed that no, they don't. The only things that the community nurses in my area supply is things for a suction machine, which thankfully my suction machine supplies were not affected because I don't get them through the hospital but through the community nurses. So they advised me to call back the hospital and try and get hold of someone else. So during this wild goose chase I found myself on, trying to locate somebody who knew something about what we were meant to do during the pandemic for supplies, I started chatting to Mitch, who told me that he also was struggling to get hold of filters in particular. And he had gone to the media, more specifically the Disability News Service. And he gave me details of the journalist that had covered his story. He was advised to reuse his filters despite what state they're in. And if he didn't want to use a filter that was on its last legs, that he could use his machine without a filter, which, according to the manufacturer's instruction booklet on these machines, you're not meant to do. But yet he was being advised to do this, and he was told that supplies for ventilators and such were being prioritised to COVID patients only. Now, I found this was also the case with my hospital, only I had to dig and dig and dig to be told this. While thankfully Mitch's persistence with media involvement helped him to regain the access to his own supplies, I have not been as fortunate. Both Mitch and I had called several numbers and spoken to several people before we went to the media with the story. At the end of the day, it shouldn't be a case that we have to get the media involved in order to regain access to essential equipment like this. We are extremely vulnerable to COVID as it is, and to be without the essential equipment that we need on a daily basis when we're not in a pandemic puts us at even higher risk if we even, just fell ill with a cough or a cold. And I think many people with muscular dystrophy can relate that it goes downhill very quickly for us. So it is very alarming that we seem to have been discarded when it came to supplies. And of course, we are not saying that we should have priority over COVID patients. Of course, it's not a competition. It's sad to say that me and Mitch are not isolated cases in this. It's happening with several NHS trusts. I can't be more specific on this, on which trusts, unfortunately, because of confidentiality. We are aware of some patients with muscular dystrophy who haven't got any filters left. What we ended up doing is setting up a private Facebook group and inviting everybody we know on non-invasive ventilation or invasive ventilation at home with all sorts of conditions, mainly muscular dystrophy. Giving people a safe space to vent what is going on with them and tell us what supplies they're in need of. I'm in contact with somebody who is offering to do 3D printing specifically for our group to provide them with the essential filters, tubing, etc. that they need in the meantime and they can't get hold of any other way. Unfortunately, web searches online for specifically filters are dated to NHS trusts, and the only place I can see to order from is America, which goodness knows how long it would take to get here, and they are massively expensive, way out of the range of people can afford, unfortunately. At the end of the day, our lives are just as important as a full healthy person who might have come down, unfortunately, with the virus. We want to encourage anybody who's having trouble accessing their usual supplies for their respiratory equipment to get in touch with DMD Pathfinders, who will then get in touch with Mitch or I, and we will invite you to our group and we will try and get you supplies temporarily while we fight the NHS Trust. We're still trying to compile a list of NHS trusts who are denying people on ventilation their equipment supplies. We hope it doesn't boil down to us taking legal action over this and that we can simply encourage NHS trusts to somehow increase their supplies. Having a paper trail of evidence also helps with getting media involvement. A lot of journalists will not publish a story unless they have both sides. Any sort of proof where the NHS Trust, any staff member has said to you, we're not providing them for X reason, or that we are prioritising them to COVID patients, to actually have that evidence is key in a campaign. At the end of the day, we're all fighting the same fight, and the more people we have on our side, the better. We want to work with the NHS to improve their services and give them a better understanding of our needs in a pandemic. They're only going to know if we voice our concerns and our lived experience during a pandemic, and they can only learn from us teaching them. Your voice matters and your voice counts, and the more people talk about the same thing and voice their concerns, the more likely the powers that be will listen to us and make the changes we need. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you to Fee for that. And if anyone again wants to ask any questions, I think Fee is here. So yeah, ask away. We do have a question in the Q&A as well, which is how can you stop ventilator mask sores on your nose? I'll just quickly answer that. I mean, the best way is to be preventative as opposed to trying to fix the problem after it's occurred. So, you know, you can use some Vaseline or something as a precautionary thing. That's what I do. Especially in the summer, if you get a bit sunburnt, that can set off a bit of a nose sore as well. And I tend to get burnt quite often. So you've got to keep Vaseline there for, put like a plaster on your nose or a strip or something, just to give it a bit of padding, really. So, yeah.
And that's a great question, actually, something that I think we all kind of struggle with. Well, now I certainly had a lot of issues with that. And I think it's all about getting the mask right in the first place, I think. You know, when I had a mask that didn't really fit so well, it was constantly rubbing on my nose and making it sore. I think I did get some like gel pads that can go over your nose that made it a bit easier to manage, but then the problem with that is it can make it leak. So yeah, it's I guess as much as possible, it's trying to find the right mask for you. But I would agree with what Mitch says in terms of if you can prevent it, it's a lot easier to manage because once it's sore, it's quite hard to deal with.
I think also sometimes with the masks, you can have them too tight. Sometimes less is more, if you like. You know, that's what I've found. You know, sometimes I've had them too tight and not needed them quite as tight as I've had them. So, you know, you can just try, you know, different pressures with the straps and so forth. That can make a difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So Kim asks, is this happening with ventilators in Scotland as well? I know it's happening all over the place, but perhaps, Sand, you could give us the best advice on that.
As far as I'm aware, it's not happening here. I think we're getting access to kind of everything we need. I know my mate Lewis, he's getting all the stuff. And actually, I've got a big supply anyway, so I've not needed anything yet anyway, just because I've got loads kind of kept by. So yeah, it's maybe not as pressing here as it is in England.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how widespread the issue is, but there's definitely a bunch of postcodes and hospitals where the right supplies aren't being given out, basically. So hopefully that will be solved. So yeah, we'll go on to the next chat now, which is with the Neuromuscular guys from up in Cheshire. So Transition Officer Lorraine Woolley is here to chat to us with Andy Duffy and I think Andrew Woodvine as well, is that?
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, when you're ready.
Yeah, well, we just divided our time up a little bit. The boys also got a few, a few things to tell you about, but about what they've been up to also in lockdown. So I'll just quickly go through mine and then pass you on to the lads. Yeah, so obviously when the pandemic broke, obviously NMC we were kind of plunged into, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make this work? And one of the things that initially we all, that we've all done is we've been using technology, obviously, to work from home, which is something that I've never done before in any extent. So that was a first for me. I remember getting an email off John once saying, we'll do a Zoom more. And I thought, what's a Zoom? So anyway, now we know what a Zoom is, and we've been using Zoom extensively. I'm transition officer, as we say, at the NMC, so I collaborate with the young people on various projects. And what I've tried to do really is to continue our working day, really structured. So we've been having regular meetups on Zoom, just all working individually on our projects, doing minutes, admin work, as if we were at work, and just keeping that day-to-day structure going on, which just kept everybody, everybody's mental well-being has been intact, because we have just kept that little bit of normality going. We've been developing workshops. We've had a speakeasy workshop, which is about building confidence and self-esteem. People have been doing presentations. We've done all this using Zoom as well. So we had them previously at the NMC, but we were able to extend them to doing them via Zoom, which has been great because some of the youngsters are 14, 15. So it's been a great experience for them because they've not used that before, and it's really helped them. Also, I've done a little bit of assisting members of the NMC community with technology as well. One of our ladies, Lynn, had some just basic issues regarding sending emails and, just different things that she'd not really done extensively before. So I did a few Zoom sessions with her, which was great, with the screen share. So the technology has been amazing. I've also had to diversify a little bit with our Duke of Edinburgh project. So obviously it all came to a halt. We had to cancel a lot of our activities that were due this year. We were going to have a night under the stars. We were going to do an expedition in the Lake District. That all had to be cancelled. But what we've done is we're diversifying by having our expedition training. So it's going to be done virtually. So that will include first aid, navigation, the countryside code. So we're going to have a workshop where that will be carried out. So again, we're not letting it beat us. Finally, and personally myself, I started up an internet radio station, which is something that I've done before. So decided to kind of do that and get all the licensing. And I thought it would be a way to bring friends and family and my colleagues at the NMC to bring us together apart. So that has been great. So every weekend we've had a little radio programme running on a Saturday evening for a few hours. We've all come together, done requests. We've had a Facebook group page where there's been lots of funny videos, photographs, requests. It's been great fun. So we've all felt together even though we couldn't be together. So that's me, really, and that's a skill that I developed in lockdown. Not quite sure how we do hand over to Andrew Woodfine, Mitch, but if you want to take it over to Andrew, I'm not sure how we do it.
No, I just need to promote him. Is it just Andy on the panelist, on the attendees?
We got
I'm trying to figure out which one it is.
Right. We've got Andrew Duffy and Andrew Woodfine.
Okay, I think it must be Andy.
Woodfine.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, John.
Bear with me.
No problem.
It should be coming on any minute.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, we're sorted.
Nice picture, though.
Can't see you yet.
Hang on, we're working on it. Try.
There we go.
There we go. Oh, we saw you there.
We saw you briefly, and then we didn't.
Won't be added then.
What did I do?
I think you went on that, I think.
That one.
Hang on, we're getting there. I don't use Zoom very often, so hang on.
Yep, that's perfect. Yep.
Look at that, we're there. He sorted it.
Yay!
Cheers, Mum. Right, I'm sorry I missed what's about the 3D printing I've been doing in this terrible lockdown crisis that we've had. Yeah, so I've just been helping the centre do some 3D printing, some I'm going to get under my table, some visors for the centre to use, and we haven't used our own design, but we've made. Give me just a second, and I think I can hopefully show you the design we got. Just a second. Screen sharing. Screen share. Right, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, God. I would try and show you, but no. I haven't used Zoom very often.
Vivek just said he likes your stormtrooper picture in the background there.
Wait. Ah, is that working now?
Yes,
Yep.
it is now.
I'm very sorry about the roughness of it, but yeah, this has been. So first, this is the 3D printer we've been using, which is a Prusa MK2. This is what we've 3D printed them on using PLA, and then we have. This is our design. So that's from the top view. So what we've got is all this is 3D printed. And on the front, if we get rid of that, and then go to, so you can see the visor fits in the front. And I believe we don't need, we got the design from someone called Mike Lauderdale by the look of it. We went for this design because it's fairly simple to print and pretty easy to clean. Oh, I don't know what it's doing now. We also have a little bit of a disclaimer on this side. This is just sort of saying that this is where we got the design from. And we're going to be selling them at the centre, so I don't know if any of you guys ever visit the centre, but we will have them be selling for you. And yes, this is just a lot of information here about what we've done with it. So yeah, that's, I mean, it's pretty quick, but that's what we've been doing as a part of the centre. It's been quite good.
Are they just for the centre, or do you?
I
you
think at
send
the
them out
minute
to
they're
people?
just for the centre, I think, at the moment. Sort of within.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of within the centre. People's carers and stuff like that. I don't know how many we've printed at the moment, or whether we've printed any, to be honest. But I think we're working on getting there.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have more in the future. Hopefully.
And what were you doing before the lockdown?
Been doing like courses at the centre and stuff, and yeah, doing my football, just usual stuff. Really.
The courses you do, is that design courses up at the centre then?
Yeah, that's at the centre. Yeah, yeah, that's been the 3D printing project of the lockdown.
And had you done any 3D printing before that?
No, never done any. Like, I know about it, but I've not ever done any. So
Yeah.
It's been a pretty good learning process. And like someone mentioned before, keeping your mind occupied is just that's what it does. It's been good help.
So are you quite good at 3D printing now?
I wouldn't say I am personally. Obviously, they're very expensive and cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I haven't really sort of semi-versed in what it takes to do 3D print.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Milan Patel had asked, are they comfortable? Have you worn them?
I've not
No.
personally tried them. I haven't tried them yet.
Do you know if anyone can answer that? They look like the sort of things we've been seeing.
No, I can't think of anyone who's tried them, to be honest.
I think the hope is that some of the centre staff may be able to use it, as part of PPE.
Yeah.
For when we start up treatments again in the future. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
mental we'll have plenty done.
that's good stuff.
Definitely.
Okay, is Andy Duffy here? Or is he?
Yes,
I
he's
think he's got an alias.
on screen there now at the minute, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Hi there.
Hi, Andy.
Hi,
All right.
you can hear me?
Great, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so do you want me to talk about the festival first, Lorraine? Is that good?
Yeah, you just chat about what you wanted to, about what you've been doing in lockdown and so forth, as we said, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the festival and then sort of what I've done in lockdown. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, the Live in the Home is a festival that's going to take place on Saturday, 22nd of August. And it sees like our brilliant new, it's a virtual event brought to life using the skills and creativity from our game changers and NMC community. And we're obviously doing this because this year we used to have a live event. It's live in Harley Hall, live in the park this summer, but obviously that can't go ahead. So that's why we're doing this online, massive sort of fun event going on, and it's just bringing everybody together to create a fun sort of distancing event. So yeah, we're full of talent here at the NMC, so there'll be plenty going on and plenty of talent. There'll be music, arts, and singing, and plenty of fun. So yeah, we've been busy. Like a lot of busy stuff's been going on at the NMC. So we've had like poetry online and like limericks that we're doing for poems, and been lots of like crafting and painting. And I've got to mention again Lorraine and Mark's wonderful show, Brightside Radio. And also I've been on Mark Chapman's podcast as well. So yeah, just what have I been doing in lockdown? Been quite busy. So yeah, I'm a member of DANK, which is called the Disabled Artist Networking Community. So most of us shielding have been on like Zoom workshops. So I've been on quite a few, notably one with Matt Lucas, which is very good, and one with Jack Thorne, who wrote the Harry Potter stage show. So yeah, I'm part of the choir. Obviously, recently we've been doing it on Zoom, so virtually, which is not quite the same, but it is fun and it's good for to keep my singing up, like good for my breathing or whatever. But something that I really enjoy. I was on TV. There's an event called Together in One Voice, and I was featured singing. I was part of the choir for that event. And I've also sang with Gareth Malone's online choir. So I've uploaded songs for his new record. So it's quite exciting, really. Yes, I mentioned about the poetry, and I've done quite a few poems for the NMC, which are actually featured on Mark Chapman's podcast. So I recorded the poems, the Easter poems that our members NMC community wrote. And can't forget the wonderful quizzes that we've been doing every week too. They're always a lot of fun. Good competition too. So yeah, I've done script readings recently as an actor during lockdown. So I had a piece that I wrote about shielding, and it was performed for the BBC Upload event a few weeks ago. I was on the Radio Manchester. And yeah, I've had my piece performed just yesterday. It was recorded for a podcast by Oldham Coliseum Theatre. And yes, I've been lucky enough to I had yesterday my first physio consultation. Obviously, I can't access the centre and go for a physio at the centre at the moment, but you know, to have those conversations with physiotherapists and have those sessions is really, really useful. So yeah, I've been really busy in lockdown. I just want to mention the rain again. Just what you've been doing is fantastic, and thank you very much. But yeah, I've been really busy in lockdown. More busy in lockdown than I was before, really. So you know, quite fortunate in that respect. I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys at the NMC have done loads kind of way more than anyone, so it's really varied as well, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. So
It's
yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah, I love hearing about all the creative stuff as well. That's really good.
Yeah,
Quite a diverse community, aren't we, really? There's lots of people into different things, so it's all kind of pulled together, really. And it's brought us all closer together, I think, as well. You know, because we've been, you know, chatting through Facebook groups and so forth. It's kept us all really engaged.
Oh, that's
And,
fantastic.
kept me going anyway.
yeah, no, it's good for like, you know, mental health, especially during this time. It's not, you know, it's not an easy time. It's difficult, but you know, if you've got things going on, like, you know, within the NMC community and different communities, it, you know, keeps you busy and mentally alive, sort of thing. So yeah,
Yeah, we stuck without it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Remember?
So that's it for our skills in lockdown session, but it just shows the sort of things that you can do. And a few months ago, lockdown seemed like this big daunting thing, and obviously there's days where we get down and things, but actually a lot of us have come out better off out of it. Like you say, Andy, like you've done more in lockdown than you would have done. So
Yeah.
that's a big bonus right there.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we're going to go on to the Talking Tech and Gaming session, which we're going to hear from a couple of people who use assisted tech, assisted gaming, and a couple of companies who are doing that as well. So first up, we've got Vivek, who's had a lot of involvement with assisted gaming and is quite a big gamer. So we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about that.
Hi everyone, can you hear me properly?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Hi, as you said, I'm Vivek, and I do a lot of stuff with assistive gaming. It kind of just started 3 years ago when I couldn't use the PlayStation controller at all, and kind of I thought I had to give up gaming because I didn't really know there was gaming accessibility. That was until I kind of worked with Muscular Dystrophy UK on technology. And I went to this Microsoft event just talking about accessibility for the first time. And that's when kind of I got really involved with gaming, accessibility and gaming tech. Kind of just by necessity, really, because for me, gaming has been a big part of my life. It's a big part of kind of my hobbies, and kind of it's just kind of, for me, it's like an escape, and I enjoy it. But I do think a lot of people, myself included, would have just given up because I just thought it was part of my condition. It wasn't just that the game or the controller wasn't accessible, so it's a big change on that. And then I've got deeper into gaming, and I've done kind of a few talks at gaming conventions about accessibility. and disability representation. So yeah, and then also I've written quite a few articles kind of in gaming magazines. So kind of that really helped just to kind of, I could do a lot of this stuff at home. So in the lockdown, kind of personally, it's not affected me as much because I practically do everything out of my computer, and kind of my setup at home is easy. So I'm quite independent, whereas when you're outside, if you have to travel to places to talk, it's a lot harder. And also, like, I don't mind, I'm able to do a lot more work because of kind of like Zoom and virtual, kind of virtual technology. And like Andy said, kind of I've done a lot more work in lockdown, kind of tested games out for PlayStation, and I've done a lot of articles, and I've involved in a few projects in the future gaming. So for me, it's been really quite eye-opening to kind of see that there is accessibility. And kind of for me, my setup was organized by a gaming charity called Special Effect. They came home and they just kind of had adapted controllers, and they had switches and all this technology to kind of help you carry on gaming. And it's just quite amazing what is out there. But the problem is it's not communicated that kind of that much, and in gaming, like, accessibility wasn't kind of thought about, except recently there's kind of accessibility has got into the mainstream. So kind of recently there's a game called The Last of Us Part 2 that came out, and that had like 60 different accessibility features for blind gamers or kind of deaf gamers, and also gamers with like kind of muscular dystrophy, really. So that's been quite groundbreaking, as well as the Xbox Adaptive Controller, and I tested that before it was released. So I tried it out, and that was really accessible too. And since then, they've partnered with Logitech, so you can buy about 8 switches kind of from Logitech and the Xbox Adaptive Controller. So when you go home, you can play it straight away. And the switches are quite cheap, they're £90, but you get about 8 switches, which is amazing because kind of switches usually cost like £150. So kind of that's really helped with accessibility. But for me, one of the issues is kind of there's the next generation of consoles out, and kind of for me, I found the right setup with an adapted PlayStation control, which is kind of the buttons are a lot easier to press, and kind of it's very light. So that's the only control I can use. So hopefully I could still carry on using the same one, because the PlayStation 5 controller is very different to the PlayStation 4. That's one of the issues why I thought I had to stop gaming, because the release of the PlayStation 4, the controller was just completely different. So I hope this time there's not going to be kind of an issue with that. But I think a lot more game developers and kind of console manufacturers are talking to disabled people, accessibility consultants. So I've done quite a few things where I've gone into game developers and kind of explained how I play and how kind of what could help me and what things to think about your design, because they usually just do the accessibility features as a bolt-on at the end. Whereas if it was designed from the beginning with accessibility, then it would be a lot more easier for gamers. So in that field, there's quite a lot of things happening. Like they're talking a lot more to, like before a game release, they're talking about the settings, which for us is a good thing, because if we have we can make an informed decision that, oh, this game has this kind of setting, so hopefully that would help us to kind of enjoy the same experience as everyone else has, which kind of, that's what gaming is really, just enjoying yourself and kind of feeling part of a community, because a lot of the work I've done is through Twitter and kind of making links on there and just be kind of quite active on there, talking and kind of sharing your ideas, or if there's a new game, and kind of I've been writing reviews for a couple of websites just for accessibility, so that has been quite fun. But I'd say reviews are pretty difficult to write. I don't really enjoy doing that, because it's a lot, kind of playing the game is quite stressful. It's a different kind of way you're playing it, but yeah, it's quite, for me, I have to think about a lot more. Kind of when I play a game, I think, oh, it's really accessible for me, but when I write the review, I have to think, well, other people would have other different setups, and so what's accessible to me is not always accessible for someone else. So it's I think at the minute it's a big part of the gaming industry, which is very kind of, it looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If the game was accessible, they would get a lot of custom for a lot more disabled people. So kind of in a business sense, it makes sense, as well as helping disabled gamers.
Yeah, that's really great, Vivek. Thanks. Thanks for sharing your experience. That's really interesting. I have one question from Janet in the audience. She said, was asking whether you get paid for the reviews that you write.
Yeah, I do get paid for a lot of the articles I write. I get paid for, but some of the articles I wrote is just for a friend, so I didn't get kind of paid for that. But a lot of the work I do is getting paid, which is good, because like I don't know, it makes you feel like you're kind of, you're an adult by kind of working and that kind of thing. It kind of is better for your self-esteem, really, to feel valued and that your time is valued and you should get paid.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great freelance opportunity.
It's great for something you enjoy as well, and you can get paid to do it. It's even better. So hopefully the next PS5 controller doesn't give you too much trouble.
Well, for me, I use something called Titan 1, which allows me to kind of write scripts on the computer, so I can kind of adjust the buttons myself, so I can kind of code toggles of buttons on, so if I tap it once and then tap it again, I can turn it off, or kind of I've changed the touchpad to swipes. So I've done a lot of things on the controller like that, so kind of it's been challenging to do that, but it's been fun. I kind of learned that.
Yeah, no, cool.
It'd be great if you had a try before you buy. kind of scheme, wouldn't it? You know, where you could go and, you know, say spend an hour just trying out, you know, especially when they bring the new consoles out, because it must be, you know, if gaming is your passion and you want to upgrade and all the new games are out and you want to play them, it would just be brilliant if they could introduce something like that where you could try it out for a few days. I don't know if that would ever be possible, but
I think what's happening recently is talking to a lot of disabled people while they're making the game. So they've got a lot of play testers, and they kind of contact a lot of disabled gamers to kind of help. So that may kind of make it easy.
Yeah.
But I do think trying it out first would be a good idea. Good idea too, if it was possible.
Yeah, just like the big high street stores, maybe they just had one set up, a bit like they do with the music systems and the, you know, the TV systems, to let people sit and listen for as long as they want before they buy anything. But yeah, just a thought, you know, it'd be great if they did.
It would be.
Great, thank you, Vivek. Okay, so the next person, well, it's a pre-recorded, but Jamie is here to answer any questions you have. So Jamie Howell's going to just tell us a bit about how he sort of does freelancing and work and things, and the tech he uses to make that all possible. Yeah, John's going to get that up first.
Adaptive apps for Windows and Android. Hi, my name is Jamie Hale and I'm going to talk briefly about adaptive apps. My condition means that my arm function can be variable and has deteriorated. As a result of that, and out of a broader interest, I've got experience with a wide variety of adaptive software and applications. I use the Samsung Galaxy S10 phone or the Galaxy Tab S5e for Android, and I have a Lenovo Yoga Book, which I rarely use because it's so bulky, and a Surface Pro 5 for Windows. I also have access to a 2015 MacBook Pro. I use a variety of mounting solutions. I Velcro my phone or tablet to the Meru Flexi mount. I prefer the 3-strand one designed for cameras. I also have a Rehadapt mount. It has a floor mount, a connection onto my wheelchair, and then a lap tray end mount that holds my Surface Pro and can also hold a Tobii PCI Mini. These connect to either the floor or the wheelchair mount. For my laptop at my desk, I have ErgoRest mobile arm supports, an Evoluent upright mouse, an Accuratus light touch keyboard, and a Levolta lap desk mount on an Actiforce electric height adjustable desk. With my mobility, each time I faced or anticipated a new barrier, whether it was difficulty reaching my full phone screen or realising my typing speed had dropped to a third of what it was and I was struggling to work out what to do when my career centred on typing, I found a solution. The solution hasn't always been as easy or graceful as I would want, and my pace of output has slowed, but there has always been one. In the talk, I thought I'd go through a series of problems people might face in accessing their technology, and then offer potential solutions to those problems. I'm more than happy to answer any question people have, either now or later on Twitter, where I'm at Jamie R. Hale. If you're looking at how to control your Android device, I can't easily reach the whole screen of my device. Samsung have a built-in cursor function in their accessibility settings, which lets you control the screen using a small cursor pad placed on one side. I use this with my S5e tablet. There is also an app I prefer for my phone called Reachability Cursor, which lets you use a predefined area of your screen as a cursor pad for reaching the rest of your screen. I can't touch the screen of my device. Using switches, I've tried the Bluetooth switch and various micro light touch switches made for the Xbox. You can either have a grid or 2 lines moving across your screen, and you tap the switch when you want to click on something. You can also use a keyboard as a switch, or tap anywhere on the screen as a switch, if you can reach a part of it. I can use my device, but struggle to type. Gboard, the Google keyboard, is pretty good at taking dictation when I'm not using my NIV machine. I have it in my email signature that I'm using assistive technology, and that errors may result from that. I can't touch my device, but I can speak clearly. This again works badly with my NIV, but when I'm not using it, Google Voice Access controls the whole device using your voice, or a mixture of that, on-screen touching, and/or a switch. It numbers every item on the screen for you to select. I found the learning curve quite steep, but it is excellent. I can't touch my device or a switch, but I have good head control. There are 2 options here. One is that Android can use the front-facing camera as a switch, with you turning your head left, right, up, down, blinking for a long period, or opening your mouth. The other is a head mouse, which controls the device based on you moving your head to move a pointer, picked up by the front-facing camera. I've trialled Ava Facial Mouse in the past, and Ava Facial Mouse Pro also exists. These rely on you being still and in good lighting. For a Windows machine. I can't type on a keyboard, but I can use an on-screen keyboard. The Windows built-in on-screen keyboard has predictive text, massively increasing the speed at which you can type. I found it to be very accurate. I can use a mouse, but I can't move it far or easily. There is an app called Dasher, which allows you to type by moving your mouse. It's quite complicated to explain, but basically you move your mouse towards a letter and it gives you that letter. Then the next letter is easier to get to if it's a likely letter, and harder to get to if it's a less likely letter. This can be done using a traditional mouse or a trackball. I find it easier to use my phone than a computer. There are various apps you can use to control your computer using your phone screen as a mouse. Unified Remote sets up a server and then lets you use your phone to control your computer like a mouse trackpad. I can speak clearly enough for dictation software. I've used Dragon Dictation on and off since I started my undergraduate degree almost a decade ago, and it's come on in leaps and bounds since then. If I'm not using my NIV, it's now pretty accurate, but it doesn't work so well with the NIV. You can use Dragon to control a lot of your computer, not just to dictate documents. Anything with menus, dialog boxes, and a window you type text into can be controlled using Dragon Dictation. I can't speak clearly enough for dictation software or touch a keyboard, phone screen, or mouse, but have good head control. Here I've only tried free versions, and they rely on you being sat still in a well-lit area, but Camera Mouse and Enable via Cam both let you do this, and can be effective under perfect conditions. I struggle with all of the above. Here, your best bet is Toby's eye gaze. You can get dedicated eye gaze speech tablets, or you can use something like the PCI Mini to control your laptop. It works wonderfully with the Surface Pro, but also works with other Windows laptops. I've used a couple of different programs for this, Smartbox's Grid 3 and Toby's own Windows Control. In brief, Windows Control was more fully featured and integrated into Windows itself, while Grid 3 was simpler to use and didn't rely quite so much on you having perfect lighting conditions. If you're on some medications, including baclofen, these can affect pupil size and make it harder for Toby to pick up on your movements. So I really hope that helped you think about access to your electronic devices and the tools, apps, programs and equipment that might help. For further tips, please contact me, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jamie. So, yeah, all good stuff to help you be able to, do your work, whether you're writing or whether that's on a computer or like a well, like a tablet as well. So you can do all sorts, really. Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for Jamie regarding that? Either chuck it in the chat or the Q&A if you do.
Yeah, we just have one question on the Q&A. I'm just giving Jamie so he can get in, giving him permission. Hello. There we go. So yeah, we just had the question whether there's some kind of schematic or visual guide for what you currently have.
In terms of the guide to all of these pieces of equipment.
I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose there's quite a lot of information. I suppose maybe for you know, just to have at a glance almost at what's available.
Yeah, I've got the script of the talk written up more in article format with links to all of the things discussed, and it would be very easy to put pictures in there as well, which could then go online somewhere as a kind of. I realised that I covered off a lot of different things in a very short space of time, and that was rattling away rather.
It's really useful. So much information. I think probably a lot of people will have questions for you later.
I'll get it put together so that it's there as text, so that people can actually take it in enough to have their questions and figure them out.
That'd be fantastic. We've got another question on the chat from Fiona, asking, is there any, and this might be for you and or Vivek actually, either of you have any answers to this, whether there's any setups to play traditional type games like Mario, for example, using a switch and eye gaze combination. Vivek, did you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know if Vivek can hear us or not.
I'm not sure.
I don't, but Special Effect would.
Yeah, no, I think your best bet to find that out would be Special Effect.
Yeah, Vivek inboxed me that as well.
I just wrote that in the chat.
It came to me, Vivek, sorry. But yeah,
okay, I think, yeah.
Vivek suggested that as well in my my private chat box.
Okay, so yeah, I think Special Effect would be your best bet. I was gonna they were due to come out to see me just before lockdown, and actually that was one of the one of the things I wanted to ask about, just to to play those really simple kind of like Mario games, just because it's a fun thing to do.
I'd actually be wondering about Pokemon as well, like the old Pokemon Red or Blue or whatever. I'd quite enjoy that.
The answer, I think, is yes. There is a way to do that, but I think it's probably beyond our specific specialism. But that's what Special Effects specializes in. I feel like I'm saying special too many times.
Well, you're saying it for effect. That's why.
Yeah,
for gaming, there is always a possibility, but it's hard to kind of tell because everybody's condition is slightly different, and everyone's setup would be slightly different too.
That's a great
One
point.
thing I was going to ask was, is there any way to rebind buttons on like a PlayStation control if the game doesn't have the settings? Is there any software you can use?
Well, I do. There is in the settings, there's an accessibility kind of page, and if you go on it, you can assign buttons and change. You can change them, but you can't change every single button. but you can change quite a few of them, and there's different types of controllers. There's a new add-on on the PlayStation 4 controller that has 2 buttons at the back, which might kind of help, but a lot of games now are doing remapping in the game, so it's a lot easier to do it through that way than having to go in a setting, really.
Because I was just going to say, I wonder if I've got an Xbox, but I don't know whether PlayStation do the same thing. But they've got like an accessories thing where you can remap all the buttons.
Yeah.
Is PlayStation got the same sort of thing? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, it has. They both kind of have that, but with the Xbox, because of the integration of the Xbox adaptive control, kind of that's a lot more better because you don't have to use kind of a controller. You can use switches and joysticks.
Yeah.
So PlayStation is kind of limited that way. Xbox are better at like system accessibility, but PlayStation is more the game developers that are really good at it, so it's just different.
We're hoping to do
Microsoft.
Sorry, we're hoping to do a workshop with Special Effect next month as well. So, any more questions you have, guys, between times, we can try to get answered next time as well. And someone had asked as well, just how can you use TV remotes? I'm not quite sure what that was referring to. But I know you can use your mobile phone as like a remote if you have struggle pressing buttons. Maybe have the touchscreen on your phone would be good. And also, some of the stuff that Jamie suggested would probably work for that. So I hope that answered that question. And then we've got Mark Chapman. Oh, where's that's gone? Just asking if people found Windows or iOS better for accessibility.
I use both. I think iOS has a lot of voice control options that are native, but that you have to put in place yourself using Dragon if you're on Windows. But I don't think there's any. I believe one of the new iPads is going to have built-in eye gaze, but that Toby I don't think is Mac compatible. I know for me that it's been a lot easier to stick with what I was used to, which is Windows, even when that's meant having to find more workarounds and than it would be for me to learn how to swap over to Mac now. So I only use Mac for things that I can't do on Windows, like video editing.
Well, the thing is, for me, I used to have a Mac, and I had like a MacBook, so I was using the touchpad and their keyboard, and when I couldn't actually use that, I went to a kind of a Windows desktop computer, and I use a normal mouse, so I think they're both kind of good accessibility. But I think Microsoft, they have a little bit more of kind of just in settings already kind of on the computer, whereas with the Mac sometimes kind of, I've used the voice recognition, that's very good, but you know, a lot of the other things aren't as accessible for kind of for me, which it kind of depends really what you're trying to do.
Okay.
I use both Mac and PC extensively. I've been using Dragon Dictate probably since I was about 25. I'm 52 this year, so I've used it for a long time. But I did hear you mention, Jamie, that you particularly struggle when using your NIV. And what I've found with Dragon Dictate is if I say a word when I'm wearing my NIV, which I wear it all the time, I tend to, you can train it and correct it so it remembers the way that you say it as well. And it just saves it. So I found that the more that I've done the training, when a word hasn't worked out, even though I've said it correctly and it's picked it up wrong, if I've done the correction and trained it, it does tend to become more and more accurate, but it takes a lot of correcting to get it word perfect, if you like. So it's a lot of perseverance, really, but I do prefer, I think, the Dragon Dictate, just because it's what I know, and because I know it works as well. So, yeah, just thought I'd mention that with you mentioning the NIV.
Yeah, because when I've been trying to train the dictation, because of the long pause between each breath, it's too quick, and he says, "Oh, I've not heard anything." But
Yeah.
because there's a long gap, it's like you can't help that. So it's really difficult to say the sentences to program it at the right time, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Perseverance.
So we're going to go on to the next talk. We've got Julian Lee from Everyone Can. I couldn't see them in the attendees, but they're here. So
Okay, yeah.
I'll let you, sorry about that, I'll let you carry on. Thank you. Hi.
Okay, can people hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just introduce myself. Basically, I work for a charity called Everyone Can, and we specialise in assistive technology, digital assistive technology or electronic assistive technology, and we have been doing since 1975. So we've got a fair bit of background, but with technology, basically, you're only as good as the latest technology. We are based in Manchester, but we are national. We have a centre in Manchester where we also do a gaming service, a video gaming service. We're just coming back online now because normally we'd have 25 to 30 people gaming at any one time here. And of course, with COVID-19, that's just not possible. So we're redoing the centre at the moment. So I've been chucked into a small room. And I don't have, I try to get a few gizmos around me so I can maybe talk about those. We cover everything technology. So everything from verbal communication, environmental controls, in other words, controlling stuff around you. Someone mentioned about remote controls, if that's things like working with TV, Sky, remote or whatever. That's the sort of thing that we specialise in as well. How to access the computer, so a whole host of different things like eye gaze has been mentioned, speech recognition, switches, different types of keyboards, pointing devices, mice, if you like, rollerballs, joysticks. And we also do video gaming, as I've mentioned. The range of disabilities and range of age ranges is unlimited. So young and old, and any type of either physical or learning or mixed disability type. And everything that we do is free of charge. That's enough of the plug. So I've been listening with interest to people who've been talking and also some of the questions that have been asked. And yeah, I can answer a few of these questions. I think it's Lorraine. You mentioned about sort of it'd be great if you could try before you buy. That's great, especially with bespoke stuff, and also disabilities is of course very bespoke. It is very important to try before you buy, because as we know, quite a few adaptations can be really quite costly. I think COVID-19 is going to be a real problem there, because if you send stuff back, you've handled the stuff, and some companies might be a bit iffy about that. But otherwise, you know, a decent company, I think, should allow you to return it, you know, on a sale or return, sort of 28 days. Vivek, you mentioned about your current game control setup, and hopefully it'll be, you know, work with the new Xbox X and PS5 when they come out. I'd have a go with the Titan 2, which surprise, surprise, is the next one from the Titan 1.
Well, I did use a Titan 2, but the code I learned for the Titan 1 is completely different to the Titan 2. So
yeah, I mean, what we tend to do, I mean, we have a mixture of, like I say, disabilities that we have in the gaming sessions, and also when we do gaming assessments. Sometimes what we'll do is, I mean, a bit has been mentioned about the Xbox assisted controller. So I've got one here. Price wise, I think it's about 75 quid. And basically what you've got here is the equivalent of an Xbox controller. So these are just sort of the equivalent of the A and B buttons that you'll find on the controller. All the other buttons are switch inputs here. So you can use your switch of or switches of choice in there. But if you then, oh, and it's also got two USB ports, one on either side. So you can also plug in alternative joysticks. Now, the joysticks that you can plug in are different from joysticks that you might use, for example, to control a mouse cursor on a computer. They're different. A gaming joystick is a different kettle of fish, different animal altogether. We kind of make ours, though there are a couple on the market. But really, it's whatever works. But we also use the Titan 2 with this, and we've got that working with the PlayStation 4, Xbox, of course, and PC, of course, and also Nintendo Switch. So, and we've got them working pretty well. So that might be something to look at. The difference between Titan 2 is that it's got two inputs rather than the one input. So I think the original Titan, which is still available, but it's cheaper, really struggles. In fact, I think it gets rejected by the PlayStation because it's not seen as a legitimate controller. But if you put it through the Titan 2, you can actually plug in a PlayStation 4 actual controller into it as well, and then that also gets around the verification. Right. Another thing. Oh, Dasher, Jamie, I think it was. Dasher's great. It's a way of typing. That's fantastic. That was very difficult to get hold of that. It's freeware, if you like. It was developed by someone in Cambridge University, if I remember rightly. Very difficult to get a hold of it. It's the closest thing that you've got, I think, personally, to typing that is really enjoyable. And it's almost like a game. Takes really good reactions and stuff like that, but it's very good for sort of fine movements on using like a joystick or even a touchpad. Eye gaze and the switch. someone mentioned playing games. The way eye gaze works is and it's how it's seen as by the computer is the problem. Firstly, eye gaze is real. I think they've now got it working with iOS, so iPads, iPhones, but really it's main support and almost exclusive to Windows, and has been anyway. But it's seen more as a pointing device, so like a mouse alternative rather than a gaming joystick, and that's the real problem when it comes to playing many video games with eye gaze. There are some eye gaze games that's now built, or that you can download from Microsoft, but these tend to be sort of fairly, things like battleships and, get through the maze sort of type of game. But there is more support coming onto that. We have people, we've done some work in trying to get eye gaze games working with sort of AAA titles, game titles. Eye gaze can work quite well with driving games. If what we do is we pair it with a program called Project Irisa, which is about £29, I think. And basically, now I think there's someone who's going to be talking about eye gaze after me, so I don't know if I'm going to be repeating or whatever you call it when you said it first. When it comes to gaming, or this person's going to be talking about controlling a computer, for example, or using eye gaze. But if you use Project Irisa, it enables you to map parts of the screen that you're looking at and then bind that with key presses. So, for example, with driving, many driving games, you can get away with actually driving by turning left, turning right, accelerating and braking. So if you map the top of the screen to accelerate, the left part of the screen to turn left and the right to turn right, and the bottom part of the screen to brake, you can actually drive a car, maybe Dirt 3 or whatever, Forza, just with eye movements. And we use Tobii 4C eye gaze. This is a little bar that basically has the cameras built in. It's much cheaper. It's a development eye gaze bar, but it is available to the general public to buy for something like, I think it's €199, which is a lot cheaper than if you were to go out and buy an eye gaze bar that's designed for special needs market, because then you're looking at around about £1,000, maybe in excess of £1,000. So there's definite savings that can be made. But yeah, eye gaze games, getting them to work with definitely complex to control games is tricky. We've had it work in FIFA, but that's not great. That's very tricky. The reason that we've been able to get FIFA working at all is because FIFA has an option to work in mouse mode. So instead of a joystick, you can actually use it, have your player pointing in a way, or traveling or running in a direction that your mouse is pointing in. So there's workarounds. By the way, people are welcome to phone us up and ask, scratch our brains at any time. Everyone can, so if you Google us, you should find us. There's so much to talk about. What hasn't really been mentioned, and someone mentioned about remote controls, is environmental controls. I've got a new item here that was just released in April, about 3 months ago, from Mobilia. This is quite neat. We haven't actually got it working yet because we've literally just got it. And this works with a smartphone app. You have to contact them to find out what the price is, which is usually gets alarm bells ringing. But I've been informed that it's just over £1,000 for the unit. They do sell a sort of fairly chunky but robust smartphone if you want. Don't know how much that is, but if you've got a smartphone yourself, just download the app and you've saved yourself that cash. And that basically enables you to work a GAWA control via your mobile phone to control things like TVs, smart plugs, door openers, window openers, anything that you can work with a remote control. And you can do that from your phone. With Android, you can just plug in a pointing device or a mouse, joystick or whatever, and suddenly a cursor should appear, and then you can use the left mouse button to select. So that's, and of course you've got touch. There's a whole host of different things that you can control with, and you can do. Voice recognition has been mentioned. People have been asking, the question's been asked, what's the best platform? Apple, Windows, iOS, Android, and it probably depends what you want to do. I would say that the company that has had, or the platform that has had the longest history, I would say, really is Windows. And they have the most diverse range, though Android are really catching up. Speech recognition, I think it was Lorraine who said she's used it for a number of years. I've used it for the last 20 years. And 20 years ago, it was rubbish. And anyone out there who hasn't used it recently and was turned off by it, because it can be extremely frustrating if it doesn't hear you right, to give it another go. Dragon is good. I'd say that's slightly better now than the built-in Windows speech recognition. Google's built-in speech recognition is very good, I think, and it's very good at using context knowledge. So if you're in a certain app or doing a certain thing, it sort of works out, if it's not sure what it's heard, it says, well, he might have said this, but that doesn't make sense. So actually, he's probably more likely said this. And it gets it, the sort of auto-correction, if you like, is really quite good. So that's great. Then you've got things like your Alexas, your Apple home devices, speech recognition that you can control your heating with, your lighting with, probably your fridge with. There is a smart fridge. So you can actually see what's in your fridge from your smartphone, which is a must-have, of course. And yeah, there is so much to talk about. And it's someone mentioned about the, and I'm glad they did, the Logitech Switch adaptive game kit, they call it. I've got the box here. For 90 quid. It actually has, I think it's 12 switches in there. And the range of switches are great. There are many, many, many different types of switches out there, mechanical and non-mechanical. So you've got things like sound activated switches, proximity switches. So you just need to put your finger slightly closer to it and it'll activate the switch. These are some of the, I don't know how this is going to pick it up, and it's got really strong Velcro. So you've got little sort of 1-inch switches here. These are the Logitech ones. You've got nice latch switches here, sort of thin, very short travel as well, which is great for people who don't have a great deal of range of movement. And something that is pretty much gaming exclusive, if you like, are the alternatives to the triggers. So this one is just like your trigger on your game pad. So it's not, you haven't just got the on off, you've got the slightly on, slightly more on, which works really well for things like accelerating and stuff like that. And you won't get that through your traditional switches. Your standard sort of 2.5-inch switch, you're looking at about 30 quid. So having 12 for 90 quid is, you know, we're saying to people, okay, you need 4 switches, just buy this. You got 3 times as many, just using the spares or whatever, and you're still quids in. So I don't know how I'm doing on time, but there also is what we tend to do. Our approach, we call it a person-centered approach, because we cover everything that's technology. People often come to us and they say, "Oh, I'd like to be able to do this," or "I've got a problem with this. You know, are you able to help me?" And we say, "Well, yeah, sure, that's no problem. But let's also have a chat about other stuff that you can't do, and let's see if there's any technology that we're aware of that can enable you to do that." And a lot of the time, people come away knowing or finding out more than they actually came to us looking for. So, you know, that as well, what you want to do, what you want to be able to do, can often dictate what format or what operating system that you need to use. You might be able to do, you know, if you just want to send, you know, short emails or relatively short emails and stuff like that, you know, mobile phone with voice recognition, you can do that without touching it.
I think we're coming to needing to move on at the moment.
Yeah, that's no problem.
This has been fantastic, though. So much really useful information. I wonder if you could just tell people how they can best contact you, and you know, maybe we can do something together in the future.
Yeah, sure. So basically, our telephone number is full of zeros. It's 0808 000. I've forgotten our telephone number. 0808, I don't phone it, you see. 0808 800 0009. Or you can email us at contact@everyonecan.org.uk. And if you search for us on Facebook and Twitter, you'll find us as well. So the main thing to remember is everyone can. We are a charity. Everything that we do is completely for free. So what I say to people is that you'll be as rich or as poor after using us as you were before you did.
Great, thank you so much for that really, really useful info.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. Great stuff.
I don't know if you all can see, there was a question, can you use Project Irises with a mouse? Can you see that?
Yes, I'm just reading now. You can, yes. It'll pick up on any movement, any mouse movement. So it's the mouse movement that's the main thing. So you can do macros. So you can do, you know, basically multiple tasks that can be set to an area on the screen. So I don't know if you ever want to do this, but it's just sprung into my mind. If you wanted to open up Microsoft Word, or you wanted to type your address, you could assign an area of the screen to that, and then just move your mouse over to that area, and then it'll do that. You could, I mean, for example, set up your own on-screen keyboard if you wanted to, but there are plenty of on-screen keyboards available that will probably work slightly better. But yes, you can, basically. You can use it with a mouse. or touchpad or any other pointing device. There's also Alt controller, which is free, if memory serves me right, though it's not quite the user interface. I don't think is quite as intuitive.
So yeah, just introduce you to James Brinton, all the way from the US, who's our eye gaze guy, and he's going to speak to us about that. So yeah, when you're ready, James.
Sure. Okay. Great. Hi, everybody. My name is James. I'm in Virginia in the United States, just 5 minutes away from Washington, D.C. To give you a reference point, and I work for Eye Gaze Incorporated. I'm a speech and language pathologist, and my job is to really educate people about eye gaze technology. We are makers of the Eye Gaze Edge, which is one eye gaze device in a field of many companies and many devices that are available. So yeah, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Eye Gaze Edge, but I also want to talk generally about eye gaze as a technology, give you a brief introduction, go through a few slides. I have some video examples, and then maybe we'll just leave a little bit of time in my 15 minutes for some questions. What I present might spark some questions, so I want to make sure we talk about those. So without further ado, let me share my screen and go into my slides, if that's okay. Let me make sure I can share my screen here. Hold on. Okay. And all right, so you should be able to see my screen now. And our website is eyegaze.com if you want to visit and learn more specifically about the Eye Gaze Edge, or just explore more about this topic in general. All right, so the things that I would like to cover is, first of all, what can eye gaze devices do? How does an eye gaze device work with the human eyeball? And then could I benefit, or what would be the benefits from someone using an eye gaze device? I know that you've been talking a little bit about gaming, and I'll touch a little bit about that. I don't personally have too much experience, but I want to weave that topic in as well. So what can an eye gaze device do? It can provide communication for someone who has lost their voice or whose voice may be intermittent throughout the day. It can be used as a computing device, used for social media, internet, access to a smartphone, and environmental control, as was just mentioned. And any eye gaze device on the market, including the Eye Gaze Edge, can be used as a touchscreen device, combination with a mouse, a keyboard, with a head mouse, with a switch, or an eye gaze camera on the bottom. And I've worked with a man who had muscular dystrophy, and he was a combination. He had a keyboard in front, used it as a combination of those access methods. Here's some examples of what you might see on a communication screen if somebody is using this for their own voice. And it can be on the left, we have an example of a medical communication screen if someone's in the hospital and doesn't have, and may be trached and they can't speak at all. On the right, we have an example of a social communication, a phrase page. Here on the left, we have what we call home page. Now, we run the Grid 3 software, which you all may be familiar with. Smartbox is a company out of the UK that makes the Grid 3 software, and this software is used by many people who, many companies who make communication devices. So here we've designed, using the Grid 3 software, our own portal to have access to communication. We have medical communication, surfing the web. On the right, you see we have social media platforms that you can access with your eyes. On the left is an example of WhatsApp, so access to computer applications. The Eye Gaze Edge is a Windows 10 platform, and on the right, you see that you have a phone dialing and texting feature. That's what that looks like. Here are some examples of environmental control access. So you can access your TV or set-top box, DVD player, a stereo if it has an infrared remote control. Many people these days are using their smart home devices like Amazon Echo, the Google Home device. Some people are using web-based environmental control devices for their home. So they have a smart home rigged up to a specific website customized for them, and they access that website either with their hands, with a switch, or with their eyes via eye gaze. A lot of options out there. Here's an example of an Amazon Alexa page. You know, there are the big things we ask her, tell me the weather and the forecast, and then you can add and remove phrases and customize this to your liking. At the bottom, you have audiobooks and smart home and games and radio music stations. So you can really customize this to your liking. Here's an example of Mei Lin. She's one of our iGaze users here in Florida, and I have a video of her if we get time to that. You can see that she's playing Candy Crush with her eyes. So how this would work is, on the screen, you see the main portion of the screen is the game. Now this is a Windows-based app game. It could also be a website-based game. And on the right, you see that she has some commands, mouse commands, that she activates with her eye movement. So you see the button on the upper right is drag, and then what she has highlighted is a left click. Below that, you have a double click, and then you can access more. It has more functions that take up more room. So this is an example of a point and click game, which is a basic game, entertaining, but I know that many of our gamers are interested in more advanced games that are higher functioning than just point and click, point and click. We'll get into more of that in just a second. I want to show you an example of this man, Matthew Hulse. He lives in Oregon on our West Coast, and he is a high-level computer user. And you can see that he has his iGaze Edge on the right, and he has his Mac computer on the left. And the software he has on his Mac computer is, what's it called? Pro Tools. So he's a musician, and he's used Pro Tools to edit and release an album via iGaze. So on the right, you can see he's holding his, I think it's a mandolin. He was a singer, musician, and he recorded a bunch of tracks, but he hadn't edited. Now he's not able to play or sing, but he used this computer technology. He hooked up his iGaze Edge to be the mouse and keyboard for his Mac computer to use Pro Tools at a very high level to edit. And his album is now released on iTunes and I think Spotify. We had a question here, so let me pull up the, hi James, would the iGaze work if you have a turn in one eye? So that's a great question. Let's address that now. Like I said, there are several manufacturers that make eye tracking devices. And one, as was highlighted by our previous speaker, is Tobii Dynavox. So we have Tobii Dynavox is a slim, kind of a bar camera that has a number of infrared lights. It's different than our camera, which has, you see down here at the right, it's just one single light. It's not a bar, but it's just one single lens shined on one eye or the other. So to answer your question, yes. If you have a turn in one eye, so this strabismus, fine. That's one unique feature about the iGaze Edge camera that the Tobii camera doesn't seem to do as well in. However, you can turn on and turn off one. You're trying out both cameras to find out which one might work best for you. Okay, so we have communication, we have some simple games. Here we have some high-level computing on a Windows, a Mac computer. Let me keep going here. So how does eye tracking work? Now this is big picture, so this is going to be the same with the Tobii camera, with iTech Digital, with the iGaze Incorporated, our camera. From the camera, we have a beam or beams of infrared light that's being shined up at that person's eye, and then that person is looking at the screen. And you see that this camera, this light, has created a triangle, and in that triangle is geometry. So this camera and the image processing software uses this mathematical data, and it now is predicting where that eyeball is pointed on the screen. So yes, you have to have eyes that are trackable, and then you have to have a camera that can track, you know, if you have someone with typical eyes or atypical eyes, different cameras have different technologies that can handle that better than others. When you start with an eye tracker, you have to go through a process called calibration. And it's going to have you look at these dots on the screen. And as you're looking at the dots, it's collecting the mathematical data. And then after that, it's now predicting where you're looking after calibration on that screen. Here we have a man in Trinidad and Tobago who's one of our users. You can see on the screen, he has pulled up a basic QWERTY keyboard. He couldn't speak, so he's using this to speak for him. When you get an iGaze device, whether it be an iGaze Edge or a device from another manufacturer, it usually comes in a package that has the tablet and the camera. the software that you'll need. It'll have a carrying case, a keyboard for the caregiver to use or for the individual to use if they want to use a keyboard. It will come with some sort of mounting hardware, and it will include setup and training from the company, tech support, and then some sort of product warranty. Oh, what is the album called? Great question. I think it's called Between the Lines by Matthew Hulse, and I'll put that here in the chat feature. What is the name of the, let's type the answer here. So Matthew Hulse, I think the album is Between the Lines. Okay, let me send that so you all have it in the chat. Okay, great. Let me know if that didn't come through. I'll type it at the end. Okay, moving on. Here are some pictures of how people have these set up in their homes and what they're doing. So here on the left, we have a man who is set up next to his work computer at his workstation. He's using the iGaze Edge as a communication device, but also as a keyboard and mouse for his work computer, which has a large screen. On the right, we have a woman in her home that the iGaze device is set up right on her kitchen table for her to access. Here are some examples of wheelchair mounts. People can roll around and have access to their device wherever they go. Eye tracking traditionally does not work very well outside in the sunlight. Tobii Dynavox has come up with a new advancement in that for someone who's interested in outdoor eye tracking. And then here we have someone on the left in their bed with the device mounted on their hospital rolling table, or you can put it on a rolling stand that can roll in any room in the house, including over the bed. Okay, another question. What was the name of the musician? All right, I think Matthew Hulse is his name. Okay, I have a video example. Let me check my time. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. Let me get to the video example at the end. So the biggest question is, well, how do I know which eye tracking device might work for me, and do I even need one? Will I benefit from one? Here are some important clues. You want to do a little work and try it out before you buy it. Put on the shoes and walk around. Look in the house before you commit to buying, right? So there's a little bit of homework you really need to do rather than just say, well, I heard about this one eye tracker, that's the one for me. You should contact the company and see if you can try it out. Or the assessment, if there's an assessment center nearby, see if you can try it out and ask, what's the difference between this device and which one will benefit me better? Some things that you want to think about is which one is the easiest for you to use. If social media or internet access is important to you, will this device allow you to do that really smoothly? I have an iPhone or I have an Android. Will it sync with my phone? Grid 3 software will sync with iPhones, whereas another software by another company won't work with iPhones. If I have a Mac, will it allow me to access my Mac? Do I like the way it looks? Is it the right size and weight for my lifestyle? Is the battery life enough? How about the computing power? Is it a strong enough computer for my needs? Can it attach to my wheelchair? And is it accurate for my eyes? There's me cleaning it. We're cleaning everything before we send it out. So here I am cleaning. All right, let me exit to some questions and we will show a video example later. Any questions? Let me pull up the chat. Okay. So think a moment, and if you have any questions, we can address those now. If not, I'll share some videos in the chat, and my time is quickly coming to a close. The first link I'm going to share is someone who's playing a video game with one of our products out of Carnegie Mellon University here in the States. That's kind of a research project they were doing. And then the other one is Mei Lin, one of our users, really going through and showing how she accesses her social media. Now she's a person who can type and she can use her hands to a certain degree, but she also uses eye gaze. And so we have someone who's doing multiple access methods. There you go, there's the links. Okay, so I put information there in the chat box. And if nobody has any questions, it's been wonderful to meet you all and be there. Thanks for the invite. Okay, great. Good, Lorraine.
That's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, James. That was, it's really interesting for me. I like don't know much about this
Sure.
stuff either, so
Yeah, I'll put our website down here too. If any, we can have anyone, if you have questions, I'm happy to Zoom and just talk more, whether it be high level or big picture. That's my job. So great to meet you all. Thank you for having me.
great, thank you. We'll definitely be in touch soon. Okay, so that was our talking tech and gaming session, which there's so much stuff to think about there. So yeah, we'll definitely follow this up with some more techie stuff in the near future. We're running a little bit behind, but we're going to go on to the disability dating panel now. So that's going to be me, John, Sanjeev, and Reese. And it's Reese's birthday today, so happy birthday! And yeah. And our friend Carrie is a bit under the weather today, so she hopefully should join us another time. But yeah, so well, I think we'll I'll pass over to John if you want to start, and we'll follow suit.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mitch. So yeah, in terms of we're mainly talking about dating. I'm now married, so it's been a while since I was dating, but I still remember the great joy that was. It's quite I don't know, quite a challenge. I think I've found I tended to kind of like dip in and out of it, so I kind of go through like a period of time where I guess like I would be a bit more enthusiastic about the kind of the online dating, and I chat to lots of people, update my profile, and then every so often you just get fed up with it, and then you need to step back a little bit. So I think I had a lot of kind of like dipping in and out really, but I don't know. I've always said that kind of dating is or like online dating is kind of like signing up to be repeatedly punched in the face, because it's never nice to have that feeling of rejection when when either people aren't contacting you, or you're contacting them and you're just not really getting any responses. So I think it can be very, very difficult out there. I think it's very easy for people to be superficial on online dating, because I think it's almost like you're encouraged to do that by the app. Like you get a couple of minutes when you have to swipe, or a couple of seconds even, where you have to like swipe left or swipe right, and kind of when you have to make that snap decision, and then you see a disability in the picture as well. I think some people are just not even going to consider that. So I think you have to be prepared for that as well. You have to kind of accept that online dating is not, it's not great. It can be toxic sometimes, but equally it can, yield great results. And that's how I met my partner, was through online dating. So one of those times when I was a bit more into it, it actually finally paid off. It took many, many years to get to that, but I'm glad I stuck with it, and I went through all the crap stuff really.
Must have gone pretty well. Obviously, you're married now, so you shan't got to do that awkward online dating thing anymore.
Yes, I'm so glad.
So yeah, I'm a bit more old school. I definitely have done the online dating thing back in the day, but I met my partner at the time through going to college and through friends really. We were friends for like a long time before we got together, and I think knowing each other helps before you like dive right into something. So it works all different ways. Online dating, that can work for some people. I'm actually single again now, and I find it harder with the online dating thing. I'm trying to sort of get back out into that realm. So unfortunately, whereas John's quite lucky in that sense, I've got to kind of start from scratch. And like I said, I'm an old school kind of guy. So yeah, I definitely find it interesting. You try to put yourself out there, and like John said, you get hit in the face quite a lot. But eventually, it can lead to really like great outcomes, as John's shown here. But yeah, I mean, for me, I would just say like, I'm single, but and I'd like to find someone, but I'm not going too mad. If I find someone, that's great, but you've got to sort of build yourself up first. So it's also about being happy as like an individual as well before you find someone. Yeah, that's me. I'll hand over to Reese. Do you want to speak next?
Right. Okay. Just reinforcing what you guys just said. Online dating can be quite savage. I would say when you haven't done a reply, it does tend to hurt quite a bit. And you are opening yourself up to a world of pain. But what I'm going to say is you got to kind of keep trying. Don't make it the main focus of your life, because some of us tend to try too hard. For lots of us in our situations, I mean, finding a relationship for us lot is kind of the holy grail, which is where John and Mitch have been really fortunate. I've had lots of experience with relationships, and lots of experience with online dating. Now, my personal experience is online dating has never really worked for me. We do attempt to get a reply, but as John said, they judge the disability immediately. So it's a very vain way of doing it, but I dare say if you did put a conservative effort in, maybe you would find someone that way. So the way I met partners is the same way as Mitch, really. You kind of want to put yourself out there because it's more difficult to judge some of them pictures, I would say. I mean, for two ways, for them and you, but we tend to deal with a stigma of disability, so you judge them immediately and go on there and try dating. You never know. You may happen to happen for John. But yeah, my way has been more like Mitch there.
I'll go next. I'm kind of actively looking right now. 24. I've had kind of wee things here and there, nothing serious. Kind of been talking to people and stuff, and obviously punching the face, as you were saying, a few times. But yeah, I'm just kind of looking right now. Online dating isn't really working for me right now. It's kind of just been really annoying and just can't be bothered with it right now. I'm kind of in one of those moods. But I'll probably go back into it soon. But I think best bet probably is in person. As you said, you get judged quite quick. Kind of for your pictures and stuff like that. So yeah.
I think I always remember something that was one of my PAs said to me actually is, if you want to catch a bus, you're not going to catch it unless you're waiting at the bus stop. So I think, what that basically means is you've got to put yourself out there, otherwise you're definitely not going to find anyone. So I think as difficult as it can be, you do really have to kind of like put yourself out there and take that risk, and every so often, it'll pay off, and you'll find the right person for you.
Yeah, like you said, it is a slim chance often, but if you're not in the game, you can't win nothing. So you're actually right for there. I would say, right, it's about taking the negatives and then building something positive out of that. I mean, we take everything, but I would say you just never got to give up.
Mm.
if you keep trying, eventually something will happen.
And I think even among the, even among the bad stuff, I think I've had, even if it hasn't become a relationship, I've met friends through online dating, and you chat to people and kind of you get to know lots of different people. It kind of builds up your social skills. So there are benefits to it as well.
I would say it's not all negative. Sure, one thing positive with the matter is we're exposing able-bodied people to us. And I think the more we do that, the more accepting we become, and then dating a disabled person won't become such a taboo, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the more disabled people there is on these sites, the more accepting it will slowly become.
Because up until now, I'll be honest, I've seen very few disabled people on these sites. Like, I mean, if they are, they're not as severely disabled as we are. Like, so I mean, to us, we are kind of the higher band of disabled, aren't we? So, yeah, I do really believe the more we expose ourselves to it, if we don't fear the hurt that could come from it can only make us better. So, and help us towards the relationship if we get one.
Yeah, I think lots of people are going for the same thing. Able-bodied people are probably getting rejected on a daily on dating sites. I don't think it's necessarily because of us being in wheelchairs or anything like that. And it's surprising that people are quite accepting. You just can't help if they don't like you or whatever. But yeah, I don't think the wheelchair always means much to some people. Some people just kind of see you instead of the wheelchair.
When that happens, that's really good for their confidence. I mean, certainly with me. When I first started dating, seeing women, I never had a very high self-worth. But it's about accepting who you are, firstly. And when you do get positive reactions, like you just said, Mitch, just let that help you, really.
Yeah, I kind of think the people that are most successful are those who are, well, as Mitch said earlier, you've got to be happy in yourself, and as you're saying, you've got to kind of accept yourself. But I think it's also about being confident. Like if you're second guessing and you're thinking, oh, they're not going to be interested in me, they probably won't be, because people are attracted to confidence. So if you're confident in who you are and what you've got to offer, I think that's what will attract people. Certainly, people are definitely not attracted by desperation. So the more desperate that you seem, probably the least successful that you'll be, I think.
Yeah, I think, like I've said many times, you've got to be able to not give a and once you do, accept that, you'll be all right. I mean, it's negativity really that makes us unconfident. And like you just said, that is turned in positivity from negativity, isn't it? Because initially we think we're worthless, but just raise your self-worth. Confidence will come from, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So, looking into the future, Reese, how is it going currently? Are you doing okay?
For me personally, I'm not very good in relationships. I rather fail. I know I've yet to find someone who's willing to come on the journey with me. I found too many partners that I have to change myself for. And I'm never happy with how I was, but the thing is, you can never change how you are. You just gotta be happy with yourself, like you said, Mitch. At the moment, since I've started my speaking career, my intention is to pursue that, but hopefully, as I carry on my journey, somebody will want to come along with me, hopefully. Like you said, it's about putting yourself out there, and that's really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when this lockdown ends, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Out there.
Yeah, we kind of been all been stuck in, but well, feels like years now, doesn't it? It'll be over eventually, but I think, I think lockdown is kind of a good thing with dating, though. So, I mean, you've got nothing else to do but try these sites. And you eventually come across someone truly. I mean, I have been really trying, but so now I would say would be the ideal time to try it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's key just to be open, be honest. Present yourself, as a disabled person, because that is you at the end of the day. There's no point in hide it, because eventually, the cat's going to get out of the bag. So you may as well just face that head on, really. And it's about finding the right person. Like you say, Rish, you don't want to be changing.
No,
I
you
mean,
can't.
I think in a relationship, I think you tweak yourself, but you can't be changing yourself for other people. They got to set.
I mean, lots of us, I would say, when it comes to women, is that we try to present the best person that we can. Now, that's not always our whole selves. So I would say don't change anything, always be pleasant. But like you said, don't lie. Be honest from the get-go. Like. So then if they don't like you, they don't like you. There's nothing you can do. But the worst thing is to get halfway through a relationship and then have them realize that you're not what they think. I mean, I've had that experience a few times, but I just think you just gotta be honest.
I think I would agree with that, and I think it's you do need to be quite secure in your identity. I would also say there's a kind of flip side in that people change, you yourself change, so kind of although you don't want to pretend to be someone else, but you do also want to be kind of open to the possibility that you might change. And I think particularly when you're in a relationship, I think as I've been married, I think I've changed definitely as a person. I think it's affected my personality, and I think that that kind of thing does happen as you kind of learn to live with someone else, and you kind of there's always an element of compromise. So I think don't be too rigid in always kind of being the same person, but equally, don't pretend that you're somebody that you aren't.
I think a relationship kind of does help us grow as people. I mean, sometimes for the better. I mean, you get and you find that person where sometimes you actually want to change for them. That's certainly my experience. So that let the relationship change you, and you can learn things. And sometimes you get hurt, but also learn from that maybe. So eventually we'll learn enough, and I think we'll end up in a relationship. Yeah, you gotta try this. A wonderful thing. It really does. Yeah, it really does make you happy. It's something that I think all of us have to experience at least once. That's what I'd say. So never really give up hope. Like,
Yeah, I think you said it best there, really. Is there anything anyone else wants to add to this? If not, we can open up to questions if you like.
Yeah, all right, let's go with questions.
Yeah, sure.
So we've got a question from Janet Bloor a little while ago, which is: did you use specialty data sites, or was it general data sets?
Well, I would say there isn't. I mean, I don't know about your job, but I've never actually seen a specialized data site. I mean, OkCupid is good, but nothing for actual disability, like.
They are out there, and I have seen them. I didn't personally use them. I think it's about kind of being honest with yourself about kind of what you're looking for as well. And I think we have some great examples of people we know with the couple with both are disabled, and as well as examples of where only one person is disabled. And I think there's kind of pros and cons to the different relationships. It's more about who you kind of like fall in love with, really. And I think what you're kind of looking for. I think if both of you have disabilities, certainly you're going to kind of have a similar perspective and understand each other, but then you're also going to have a lot of practical issues to deal with. And I guess on the flip side, you know, if you're dating someone non-disabled, but I think also even using the non-specialist sites, you're still going to be encountering disabled people. So I think it's really just down to personal preference, really. And in terms of kind of what you're looking for, I didn't ever go on the specialist because I kind of thought that the non-specialist ones tend to have more people in there, so your chance is higher, kind of thing. But yeah, I used OkCupid because I found it was a bit more than people just looking for sex. That, you know, people that had actually gone to the effort of completing a kind of detailed profile and helping you to understand them. So I found that was quite a good site for me.
Yeah, I would say it is about finding out what you want firstly. I mean, if you just want sex, I wouldn't really recommend any site, to be honest. I mean, you can do that in other ways, but if you want a real connection, I would say OkCupid is quite good. I mean, I've used it, but I've had relationships with somebody else in a wheelchair. Now, you know what? It's great in the beginning because you understand each other completely. But sex, well, to be honest, in any relationship, this is an important part. But that was quite impossible. And in the end, there's sort of that ended it. So I would say the a general dating site would be better. I don't know. I've tried them both. Like,
I think that, I mean, that could be fair to say, but obviously, I don't think anything's impossible. So, so yeah, there are, you know, people with disabilities can date each other, whether they're both in wheelchairs or whichever. It doesn't really matter, but there's lots of just different ways of getting around certain problems as well, which we've got to think of. And there are places, you know, like Pathfinders, really, who can try and help you get around certain issues. Obviously, not to talk on a live forum like this, but definitely privately, you know, we can address those sorts of issues that you may be facing. Yeah. Okay.
I guess going with another disabled person it is a unique opportunity to sort of experiment when it comes to those sort of things. But what I find it was kind of an endless experiment. You know what I mean? And neither of us were that comfortable. But I think it does depend on the two people who meet.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, well, yeah, I think this is it's been a good little chat about dating with disabilities. It's definitely a wide ranging topic, and we've all got different views on that. But like I say, there are things out there, and even just us four chatting now, and the people that are listening, that's good as well. You know, we're not hiding away from it. We're sort of tackling it head on, and as long as we keep doing that, hopefully, you know, that will lead to more of fun relationships and getting married and sort of starting families and things like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all about addressing the elephant in the room, really, isn't it? I mean,
definitely.
so lots of us relationships are impossible, but obviously, like you said, nothing is impossible. And I have experienced a lot. So any youngsters listen to this, absolutely it can happen. And it will happen. You just have to keep persevering.
Well, thank you, Reese, for joining us, and Sanj for
No problem.
being here, John as well.
No problem.
So if there's any questions that anyone would like to ask either us, Andy Rose is still here. If anyone would like to ask any questions to him, that's a Neuromuscular advisor, by the way.
I'm just adding Andy so he can introduce himself.
think
Hey,
I'm on.
Andy.
Is that better?
You all right?
Yep. Hi there. Hi everyone. I know a few of you have met some of you. My name's Andy. I'm one of the East of England Neuromuscular Care Advisors, based in Cambridge, working with children and adults with all sorts of muscle conditions. So, Mitch asked me to join you just for very general anythings really. I'll do what I can. If I can't answer your question now, I will try and come up with an answer and come back to you with it at some point in the near future. But whatever, I'm willing to take all subjects on if I can.
Cool. Okay.
I might just throw a question out to you, just something that people might be interested to know is in terms of, you know, as shielding is kind of coming to an end, and well,
Yeah.
some people may continue to do that, but I'm just as kind of services start to resume. I mean, what will you play a role in terms of advising people on that, and you know, what can people expect really?
Yeah, so I probably should have put money on that being one of the first questions that was asked. It's been really difficult for us as health professionals, because what you have heard and read and seen from government, NHS, Public Health England is exactly the same as we've had within the NHS. There isn't a secret supply of information or rules, and if it's confusing for you, it's equally confusing for us. I suppose the main thing to say is that the focus at the minute for shielding and the official government shielding policy is that it ends on July 31st. That really only refers to the services that support shielding. So if you are getting help from local services with food packages or medicines being delivered or other things like that, that will wind up. Of course, it doesn't mean that on August the 1st, there is not going to be a risk of infection out in the community. And anyone who is in the vulnerable category, so that's whether that's someone with immunosuppression, like people with medication after transplants, people under treatments for cancer, or people with respiratory conditions, there's still going to be the same risks if they contract the COVID infection. What the government and NHS are hoping, well, I say mostly government, I don't think the NHS made too many decisions on it, is that the rate of infection in the community is lower, and therefore it's safer to go out and about. All we can do is present facts to individuals or groups so they can make their own mind up about whether they want to go out and about. If an individual follows all the fairly strict advice about hand hygiene of themselves, of those around them, they follow the advice about social distancing, face masks, avoiding busy areas, that sort of thing, then the most anyone can do is minimize the risk of contracting an infection. No one can reduce that risk entirely. So as professionals, I want to encourage people to get out and about, to get some fresh air, to get some sunshine, to socialize, to meet with family and friends, to go and do activities they enjoy doing for their well-being and for other aspects of their health. But what I don't want anyone to do is to put themselves in a situation where they are at risk of or higher risk of contracting an infection that can have very serious implications for them. So it's really difficult for us. For things like hospital appointments, clinic appointments, unless you're going to an area that is known to have high risk or high numbers of COVID affected patients, it should be safe to go into hospital for routine appointments. So whether that's cardiology, respiratory clinics, standard neuromuscular neurology clinics, gastroenterology, orthotics, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, any setting like that should be able to see individuals within their normal clinic environment. There's obviously going to be some limitations, some restrictions in place in terms of number of people. It might be there's only one carer can go in. It might be that you have to wait outside in a different waiting area, or you have a limited time that you can be in there. But in terms of protection from risk within hospital, they should be well set up. The problem we have now is there's a huge backlog of appointments because so many clinics were cancelled from March, April, May and June that now they're trying to fit those in. So any planned appointments may well be delayed quite significantly. But if you do have an appointment in a hospital, it should be safe to go and visit and do that appointment and have the assessments, investigations, x-rays, echoes, anything like that should be manageable. Of course, the other issue that is going to be relevant is unplanned hospital visits, whether that's through an emergency department or otherwise, because you can't guarantee there you're going to an area where there is I suppose red or green areas are how hospitals indicate whether there's a risk of infection, i.e. red, there's patients with known or suspected infection, or green, where there's a very high chance that there's not or there isn't anyone known to have infection. If you go into hospital through an emergency department or an unplanned admission, you can't guarantee you're going to be put into a green area. So people will be thinking about that. But at the same time, we do not want people to avoid going to a hospital if they are unwell or if there is an indicator that they should be going. And that's the best we can do. We can give you that information, and then we have to leave it up to the individuals to make their minds up as to whether they do go in for that visit. Of course, if it's a planned visit and you've got an appointment and you don't know what to do, you could contact either the clinic themselves, care advisor if you've got one in your area, or clinical nurse specialist if you've got one, for advice on that and maybe some support in terms of getting access to a clinic. If it's for an emergency admission or an unplanned admission, then you have to try and think about it as much as you can before to weigh up the risks and the benefits. Of course, if you need to be in an emergency department, you need to be in an emergency department. We don't want people to put that off. But if it's something that could maybe be put on hold or investigated in a different way, that might be more preferable. That's a bit of a long talk there for a very brief question, John. I don't know if that covered it enough.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm copping out of giving you a proper answer because I simply just don't have one. It's just too vague and generalized in terms of the information we've had from everywhere. So it's up to you as an individual on each and every occasion where the issue is raised.
Yeah.
And I suppose I should add on to that, it's not just hospitals, is it? It's about going back to work, it's going back to college, university, the same thing. You know, we can tell people what needs to be in place to try and make that as safe as possible, but only the individual can decide if their work environment is made safe for them, or if the college or the school or the university has put into place enough precaution and safety measures to make it safe for them. So that's going to be very much on an individual level. There are certain things, certainly within the hospital in Cambridge here, there's something they call COVID safe assessments for workspaces, and there's a whole sort of checklist of things that need to be in place for an office or a clinic to be considered COVID safe. That's for employees to go back to work if they've been shielding at home, and if the trust or the management within the hospital can't show that area that particular work area is COVID safe, then the trust really has a responsibility to support that individual in continuing to shield and work at home. So again, that's going to be very dependent on the employer, going to be dependent on the environment and the type of job. For colleges and schools, it's going to depend on what type of school, what type of college, how many people are attending lectures and seminars, and all sorts of different factors. So it can only be done on an individual basis.
It's good to know, you know, like the support's there and everything, and like Bob had just put into the chat now, like all the safety measures are in place. It's trying to be made as safe as possible. But yeah, things are starting to go back to normal. And it's up to you.
My experience is within Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, and the systems that have been put in place there happened in a matter of weeks, and normally those changes would have taken years. So there has been huge change within hospitals. I assume all other NHS trusts have gone to the same level of effort to make it safe. But you can always phone in advance and ask, do I have to wait in a waiting area where there are other people? Can I wait in a vehicle outside and come in when it's my turn? Is there an entrance and a separate exit so I don't have to pass through where other people are congregating? A clinic should be able to give you all of that information before you go. So if you can ask, then that might make you feel more reassured about what systems they have in place for your safety.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions that anyone else wants to ask? I've probably got a question. Just based on what you're saying about hospitals and things, is the idea that, like, I know you say clinics are opening, but is it from that date? You say the 31st of July? Like, because obviously there's been lots of telephone calls and things.
The answer to that is no. Hospital services won't be going back to normal on the 1st of August. The systems in place at hospitals now will probably be there for a very long time. So it might be for example, some clinics are limited to have to have a half-hour gap between visits so that the rooms can be cleaned. That's not going to go away. Some clinics will be relocating to other parts of the hospital where they are in green areas, if you like, so they're well away from the red areas. That's not going to go away. So the disruption for clinical services is going to go on for a long time. And that's probably a good thing, rather than reset everything back to how it would be normally. If there was another peak, another surge in the community, the hospitals would then have to spend a significant amount of time, money and effort in reversing it all back to a safety environment. So we've heard different things, 6 months, possibly 12 or even 18 months or longer. No one knows. But I think the best thing to do would be to assume it's going to be like this for a good number of months still.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help. I think one of the important things is during this time is for people to think about maybe if you've got an emergency health plan or an acute health plan, is it up to date for the current system within hospitals? Not everyone will have a health plan in place, but some people might have direct access to a respiratory unit or a gastro unit, where normally you can just phone the ward and say, oh, I'm unwell, and they admit you. It's very possible that those systems aren't usable at the minute. Some people might have maybe fairly well known to their emergency department, but they might find that you can't actually get in and be seen as quickly as before. Same for your respiratory services. Maybe you could phone up on a day and get seen by your ventilatory service. Maybe that's not the case. So it'd be worth, if you've got an emergency plan or a health plan, have a look at it, maybe dust it off if you've been well for a long time and haven't gone through it for a while, and check to see, is there anyone on that who maybe I need to contact and see if what I've got written for them is still relevant. So primarily we're thinking about access to emergency departments, access to ventilatory services, maybe gastro services as well. And if you do have a direct access to any sort of ward or unit, contact them and find out if that would still be applicable. Because if you think it's going to be the same, and then you are unwell or need an assessment or need something for your NIPI or something, you might find there's going to be a delay, whereas before you've never ever had that. So worth checking your plan and making sure it's up to date for now, and then maybe that has to be reset and updated again in however many months' time when things become more normal. Does that make sense? Yeah. No, no. If that's specifically for COVID related question, no. I mean, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Eyes. Yeah. Anyway, I think we have to assume with a this type of viral infection that there is no 100% guarantee way to protect against contracting it if someone near you or working with you or in contact with you has it themselves. If you have the full amount of PPE that you would see nurses and doctors wearing in intensive care units now, then of course that's going to be the best protection. But a full face mask, filter, they will help versus having nothing, but they're still not going to be a guarantee protective measure. The best things we know, keeping distance. For anyone who's working with you or living with you, it's the hand hygiene, it's keeping isolated from anyone with any types of symptoms, it's cleaning surfaces and being not. We don't want people to become obsessive and become very, very obsessed with cleaning and hygiene, but it is important. And I'm sure anyone watching this webinar and joining in now is already doing that, making sure that visitors, carers, family, friends are washing their hands, making sure they're following all the rules for shopping deliveries and parcel deliveries where there's distance kept, and everyone will be doing that. So sensible precautions is the best thing to be done. Don't rely on thinking that you've got something that is better than anything else. That's a big issue. If you can tolerate it, fine. What you don't want to be doing is forcing stuff upon yourself that makes you feel worse, makes you effectively become withdrawn and more isolated than you really need. I'm sure most people joining in have read and heard about the effects of the isolation and shielding on well-being and mood. And that's a massive factor, and we do need to make sure that people look after themselves from that point of view, so physical health as well as mental health. And so, yeah, what you can tolerate is probably about the best way to describe it. Do what you can tolerate. Yeah.
You said just trying to keep busy. I've talked a bit about how over lockdown I've been baking cakes and writing, which I do anyway, but more than usual. Taking pictures. I've got kids, like I say, that helps. Keeps you busy. But yeah, just watch films and try and keep in contact with your family and your friends through FaceTime if you're still, if you're not seeing people. And I think we're lucky we we do get like PAs and things that we can chat to. So also make use of that, like the relationships you can have with your PAs at home.
I think, John, you said exactly what I would have said. There will be things you can control and things that you can't. And I'm not a psychologist, and I have done very little formal training that goes along the psychology side of things. But from information that we've been given by our paediatric neuropsychology team, a lot of that was focused on, this is obviously for children because it's a paediatric service, was about discussing with children things that they understand, and exactly as you said, John, what they can control. And if it's something they can control and manage, then that's great, they can think about that. And if it's something they can't, then got to try and steer them away from that. I mean, it's difficult to make children understand that, but obviously with adults, it's a lot easier. So I think you got it almost exactly as I would have said, John. Work on what you know you can control, and if you know you can't, you have to try and accept you can't, and not dwell on that. That's quite key. Just seen there's another question at the bottom that's come in from Mark about aerosol generating procedures. Mark, we could be here a long time if we looked at everything that's been said and written about aerosol generating procedures with regards to COVID. I don't know if you mean in your question there, is that specifically for something with carers or within a hospital setting? And for anyone who's not sure what that is, aerosol generating procedures are something which within a infection control environment are considered the highest risk of spreading the infection. So if we've got someone who's having an intervention in hospital and it's considered aerosol generating procedure, then that's where the staff within the hospital will be wearing the highest level of PPE. So things such as, well, many things are aerosol generating, and then things that are relevant for hospitals would be things like using a non-invasive ventilator, using a ventilator through a tracheostomy, a cough assist machine. What else generates aerosols? Things that make you cough and sneeze. So aerosol generating procedures will potentially be something that makes people more worried about an infection being spread. If it's in a hospital setting, it will have higher level of PPE involved. I suppose I see your answer there. Ventilator with ventilators at home with carers, Mark. Okay, so in that sense, an aerosol generating procedure would be using your NIPI or your ventilator, non-invasive or invasive ventilator at home. If you're well, there's no sign of infection within you, there's no sign of infection within anyone living with you or visiting you or involved in your care, then there isn't any more risk of spreading virus than before this, because we would assume no one has it. The only time it's relevant is if you have any signs or symptoms of infection. So that could be anything that you'll have seen on all of the NHS or NHS Scotland websites about temperature, new persistent cough, the loss of smell and taste, and all the other signs and symptoms. If you have any of those, and therefore you have signs of a viral illness, if you are using ventilator at home and you have people coming in to give close personal care, they probably should be using as much PPE as is available to them. Now that's obviously going to be very different depending on where you get your care from, how it's funded, where you get equipment from, and I know all around the country there's huge variations in what some people are getting and not getting hold of. So I see, Mark, you've appeared. Are we going to get more vocal rather than muted? Okay. So just to finish up on that one, if aerosol generating procedures at home are not relevant if you are well and there's no sign of infection or illness within you or anyone you live with or involved with you. If there is a potential or concerns or any signs that you or someone else has infection at home, then PPE as much as possible would need to be used to prevent that possible infection spreading through aerosol generated procedures.
Right, cool. Thank you, Andy. That was good to hear your COVID sort of wisdom.
Yeah, it's been a lot of COVID lately. Funnily enough, for us, not a lot of anything else. Things have really calmed down from work in terms of all the normal things. I hope that we'll get back to normal soon, especially when the schools go back in September. But I think we'll still have a lot of COVID heavy duties relating to schools as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to say thank you to everyone who's come along today and listen. Thank you for the speakers as well. That's some really good stuff on tech and sort of skills in lockdown, dating, and this Q&A has been helpful as well. I'm going to hand over to Mark just to sort of see us out. See you, Mark.
Well, I just want to say it's been a really brilliant conference on. And I think you've done a really good job matching, putting everything together. We've had some great speakers, and I think it's made it really, really good. And I just want to thank everyone that's worked behind the scenes, and also everyone that's taken part. It's certainly been very informative, and I think it's been very helpful during this very difficult time. So just thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks. Okay, well, John will end this conference now, but yeah, thanks again, and we'll follow up everyone's questions and bits and bobs, and we'll have some follow-up sessions as well. So yeah, we look forward to it. Bye.